Welcome back to this beginner tutorial video. We are on to part 5. Also, just like congrats for making it this far. You're awesome. Don't ever forget it. Okay, we're gonna finish this dashboard for this video. And again, we are wanting to make it look this beautiful, and we will. But there's some more steps that we need to take to do that. Let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to finish cleaning up all of these graphs before I begin to sort of format the organization and the outline of the entire dashboard itself. So there's a few more like redundancies I want to get rid of. The first is that I hate the default naming convention for line graphs. It always just has this weird like month of date calculation, right? It's never exactly what I want it to be. And of course I find it to be redundant. So I'm gonna right click, hit edit axis. Down here where it says axis titles, I'm just gonna freaking delete it. I don't need it, right? It's pretty straightforward when people see this here, what's going on. So I'm gonna do that for both. Right click and delete. Amazing. I'm also going to do the same for the y-axis. Since our title has sales in it, I'm going to right click, hit edit axis, and delete sales. If you prefer to have it on there, that's totally fine. That's like completely up to you, whatever you feel comfortable with. But my preference for dashboards is just to reduce as much visual noise as possible, because I think people often forget that interpreting graphs is hard. Even as an analyst, it takes me a while to read through an entire dashboard and get a sense of what the data is saying. So I try to just make that as easy as possible. Now you might note that when I change the axes, our little marks labels went away, right? If I go to the sheet, they're still there. But in this dashboard view, because it's been scrunched up, we can no longer see it. And that's because this is set, our labels are set to automatic. And we don't want that. We actually want to force them to always show. So if you right click on it, you hover over mark label, go ahead and click always show. So now we're just forcing the dashboard, even if it doesn't like it, to show the labels. So we're gonna do chocolate, and we're gonna do glaze. I'm just gonna move that down here. Okay, that's a little better. I'm gonna do the same for my company. Krispy Kreme and Dunkin'. Man, going through the series has made me want to eat a donut so badly. I don't know about you. Okay, let's move Krispy Kreme back. Awesome. Okay. Whew. They're still there. Now they're always gonna be there. We can trust that. I'm actually just going to, oopsies, select the very end of here and do always show as well, just so that I am confident top pot will be there. Looking good. Next, more visual clutter. The next thing I'm going to get rid of are grid lines. So they're very light, but you can see them here in our line graph. They can be helpful. There's certainly a time and a place for grid lines. For example, if you want to keep the grid lines in this line graph, I say go for it, because it does help in really quickly getting a sense of like where these values fall. But since this is a dashboard, it's interactive and you have a tooltip. So in my opinion, grid lines are a bit redundant, especially because we're just trying to get a quick sense of how these companies are doing in comparison to themselves and over time. Or sorry, comparison to each other. So I could go into each of these sheets and delete the grid line, but there's an easier way to do it. Let's go to the top of our screen, click on Format, and click Workbook. Here is where I can make changes that will apply to the entire workbook. So it'll apply to all of my sheets and my dashboard, okay? Down at the bottom, it says lines, grid lines. So currently it's showing that if there's gonna be grid lines, this is what it's gonna look at. I'm gonna click on the line, click on automatic, turn them off. Now, all of those extra grid lines are gone, So the only lines that I have left are for my axes, which I think is necessary. But again, we're just reducing that visual clutter to make things as easy as possible. Okay, so we've done color. We've gotten rid of grid lines. The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to change the font type. So Tableau will always default to the Tableau book font. And since we're in that format workbook tab, we might as well change the font to whatever we want. So I'm gonna click on Tableau book, click on this drop down. You can choose whatever you feel like is best. They have a whole bunch of options, just like Microsoft Word. I like the look of Franklin Gothic. I think it looks professional. Yeah, I'm a fan. That's what I'm going to choose, but feel free to play around and just see what works best for you. Oh, I'm noticing that we have a duplicate of the Dunkin' Donuts. So I'm just gonna click on that and click never show. There you go. Weird. I don't know how that happened. Okay, so we've changed the font. Isn't it amazing how long formatting can take in Tableau? But I promise you it's worth the effort. It really is, because to make your workbooks stand out, this is how you do it. All right, so I think that might be pretty much it for our graphs and our tables. Everything's looking really good. So I think we're gonna finally shift to like formatting the dashboard overall. So if we look and compare to this finished version, one thing that really stands out is the title. We don't have one. All right, so to add that title, we're gonna click and drag text, and you are gonna hover it at the very top until you see that gray bar going all the way across. Then you're gonna release it. So I'm gonna call this donut sales because that's what this entire dashboard is focusing on. And I'm adding a data disclaimer that the data is fabricated. I'm gonna do it like that. Okay, because I don't want anybody ever looking at this workbook and thinking that, this is like real data. I already know this is gonna be way too small, so I'm gonna change it to a size 48, and then I'm gonna decrease that data is fabricated. Let's just do like, we'll do like 24. All right, so we've got a title. It's a little too big, so I'm gonna grab that bar at the bottom and move it up. Yeah, let's do like that looks pretty good. All right, when we put that in there, did you notice that these two boxes shrunk? I did. You might like that. You might like the look and feel that, this is kind of less wide than, or I guess it's more shorter than the line graphs. I don't. I'm not a fan. So I'm going to use these objects down here in order to make these look similar in size, actually exactly the same size. What you could do, if you're not as particular as I am, is you could simply click and drag these down until they look about, maybe like there, the same to you, right? But if you want them to be exactly the same, you can use these containers. We're gonna use vertical containers. So I'm gonna click and drag this, let's put it right there. So vertical container is just basically like a space on your dashboard that you can organize things in a stacked way. So these are the two things that I want to stack. So I'm going to first click and drag my bar chart into the vertical container. And then, let's actually make this a little uneven. I'm going to click and drag this until I see a blue outline. Okay, that means I'm clicking and dragging it into my container. If I don't see a blue outline, it's not going in the container. But when I do see it, it's gonna stack vertically. Okay, this looks horrible. What have I done? So in order to change the formatting, go ahead and click on that downward arrow on any of your sheets, any of the two sheets in your container. And then you're gonna click select container. Okay, now we've highlighted that vertical container. You're gonna click on the downward arrow. And my favorite button for dashboards, Distribute contents evenly. Perfect. So now, no matter what happens, no matter what I like change around my dashboard, these two graphs will always be distributed evenly. So they're going to be the same size. If you want to practice that, you can do it again for the other two, or if you're lazy like me, you can simply click and drag until it matches this distribution. All right. Oh my gosh, we're getting there. This is so fun. I hope you're having fun. I am. So if we compare this to sort of the final results, there's some other things that we can sort of notice that are tiny details, which makes a big difference. The first is that I've added spacing between these boxes. We don't currently have that. The second is that there's also a border. And the third is that the background of the entire dashboard has actually been changed from from white to a light gray. And the reason for that is you can better see those spaces between each sheet than you could otherwise. Okay, so we're gonna apply those three things. So let's start by adding a gray background. To do that, you have to be really tricky in selecting your dashboard. So if you're out all the way at the top, you gotta click it until basically click the rim until you see that blue box. Okay, once you've highlighted the entire dashboard, we're gonna go to the Layout tab on the left-hand side of your screen. This tab is for formatting objects inside your dashboard. So we've selected the whole dashboard and we want to change the background from none, which is a default of white, to this light gray. Okay, cool. But now you can kind of see that our titles and our sheets also have a gray background. We don't want that. So we're gonna go through each sheet, change the background from from none to white. There we go. Boom, boom, boom. Background white. Awesome. So now our dashboard has a gray background, but our sheets have a white background. So we've created contrast. And again, this is a quick and easy way to separate our objects in a dashboard. Next, we're gonna add a border. So going back to my bar graph, above the background in the Layout tab, there's a border. Currently it's selected as none. I'm going to select this color gray and it adds a border. I'm going to do that for every object except for my title. So just my sheets. Nice. Ah, man, it's just so much better already. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is you can kind of see that Tableau defaults this spacing to be really close to the edge of each of my objects. It's just really, I don't know, there's no spacing. And since we use Microsoft Word a lot and we have margins on our Word documents, we're really used to having space between the edge of our sheet and text. So we're gonna add that. So if I click on a sheet, I'm still on the Layout tab and I scroll down to where it says padding. So it defaults to an outer padding of 4, which is basically saying there's going to be space at a 4 measurement between objects. So if I were to change this to 0, for example, you can see that the spacing between the bar graph and everything else has lessened, right? It's smushed itself closer to everything else, which is not great. And that's why it defaults to 4. And I find 4 to be perfect. I rarely ever change the outer padding, but if you want them to be further apart from each other, go for it. But that's not what I'm focused on. I'm focused on what's inside my object, what's inside my sheet. So I want to create padding between the border and what's inside my sheet. And that's where you do inner padding. So I change everything to a 10. And already that looks so much better. So that's what inner and outer padding can do for your dashboard. It just rearranges things to be further apart from each other. I'm also going to do that for my donut, my title. Did it apply? Yes, it did. Okay, fantastic. Wow, this is looking amazing. I'm loving it. The last thing I'm gonna do is just change the color of this to match the darkest color on my dashboard. So in order to do that, it doesn't exist up here. I'm gonna click on more colors, and a great feature that Tableau has is pick screen color. So I'm gonna click on that, click the graph, hit OK, and voila. I have my donut sales data is fabricated dashboard. I just realized that our Dunkin' Donuts isn't showing anymore. Something is going on over here. I'm gonna change that again to always shows. Okay, there we go. Uncheck. Okay, fantastic. So we have changed the formatting of our dashboard. I'm gonna move this up a little bit more, and then I have to do that here as well. There we go. So we've changed the formatting of our dashboard from that default formatting to a professional look and feel that is also aesthetically pleasing on the eye. Congratulations, you have made it through part 5. In part 6, we're going to rebuild this, but for expenses, right? Because we have 2 variables. We have sales and we have expenses. We want to have 2 dashboards that give us information about these companies and about donut types. If you want, as homework, you can rebuild this exact dashboard, but for donut expenses before the next video, so that you can compare how you do it to how I do it. Or if you're like me and you just want to learn from somebody else, stay tuned for part 6 and join me there for creating the donut expenses dashboard.